Hello and welcome to Dad Rail. It's train driver vlog number 10. That's it, I've made it to 10 and it's going to be a good one. So sit back and relax just like I do when I'm at work, because is it really that hard to drive a train? Before we jump into the video, as always, I just want to make you aware that all the opinions and views expressed within this video are solely my own and may not reflect those of any company I may be employed by or associated with. Also, names of people, places and locations may have been changed to preserve confidentiality. Now, if you're watching this at the time of uploading, then I am in Portugal, topping up my tan. Those of you who have followed me for a while now will know that my wife Daniela is Portuguese, so I do spend quite a lot of time in Portugal. Now, I've done lots and lots of train spotting filming in Portugal. I tend to film my train spotting videos in more of a presented storytelling style rather than just shots of trains. So if you haven't checked those out, do go and check those out. They do make for quite good watching. Well, I would say that, I suppose I'm a bit biased. Anyway, this occasion in Portugal, I'm actually trying to film some heritage stock. There's a steam service and a diesel meter gauge heritage service that I'm trying to film. So hopefully, if not already, that video will be out very soon. So is it that hard to drive a train? Well, yes, absolutely. Or not, as the case may be. Well, maybe it's difficult. It depends on how you look at it. Operating the physical controls of the train and getting the train to move is child's play. Anybody can doing it. Stopping it, however, not quite so simple. But there's quite a lot more to the job that I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, being a train driver is the dream of many young children. Indeed, it was mine once upon a time. It's a very rewarding job, and it's no secret that train driver salaries often command upwards of £50,000 for a 4-day week. But being a train driver is also full of responsibility. Now, if you do a Google search for train driving, you'll see that the public perception of train drivers is all they do is stop at red signals, go at green ones, stop at stations, sit there and do nothing all day and speed. Train drivers always speed, according to public perception. Completely not true. Check out vlog number 6. I think it was, where I talk about the reasons why train drivers don't speed. So while it's largely true that all we do as train drivers is respond to signals and stop at stations, there is a lot more to the job than initially meets the eye. Driving a train, the physical act of driving a train is easy, but to actually be a train driver, it requires a very specific skill set, which is why about 85% of applicants don't pass the initial psychometric test on application. I'm going to talk firstly about technical skills, the actual skills you need to be a train driver. And this is things like knowing how to operate the controls, knowing the rules and regulations that govern the running of the railway, knowing your routes that you need to pass over, knowing the type of train that you're driving, knowing emergency situations and how to respond to them. Now, nearly all of this can be taught in a classroom and through on-the-job training. This is the what I call kind of nuts and bolts, the quite simple of it. This is the public perception bit, why people think that driving a train is easy. The second part of the job, which there's no public perception for, is what are known as non-technical skills, something the industry as a whole has invested in heavily in recent times. And this is things such as concentration, fatigue management, multitasking, task prioritising, memory, decision-making ability, and so on. And it's the non-technical skills that make train driving not as easy as it initially seems. Someone once said to me that train driving is the only job where you don't get paid to do it right, you get paid not to do it wrong. And for me, this perfectly sums up the accuracy, consistency and safety level that you need when driving a train. You need to respond to every speed limit, every signal, every station stop. You need to do it accurately 100% of the time. And I want to put this into perspective. I'm going to look at just the past 5 years in my career. I am reading this off of a screen, by the way, if you couldn't tell. I've got a laptop in front of me. But using rough calculations, over the last 5 years, I've estimated I've probably stopped at about 26,000 stations. Each station stop carries the risk of stopping in the wrong place, opening the doors on the non-platform side, overshooting the platform, or forgetting to stop altogether. So that's the potential for 104,000 individual mistakes just in regard to stations. And me personally, I've made just one. In 5 years, out of a potential 104,000 mistakes, I've made one. And it wasn't a particularly serious mistake. There are drivers, especially in the metro area, I'm a mainline driver, I drive a lot of fast trains, that stop at way more stations than that and have made no mistakes. So the accuracy level is really immense. I've estimated that in the past 5 years I've driven past probably about 156,000 signals. Never been involved in a SPAD. So you can see that the level of accuracy and safety that you need is really high. You might start thinking, oh, but that's simple. That's absolutely simple. You just reds go, reds stop even, greens go. How hard can it be? But it can actually be a lot harder than you'd imagine. So as I've already said, the act of physically driving a train is reasonably simple, but this can bring about its own set of challenges and its own set of problems. At certain times during the driving cab, there's actually very little to do, which can make your mind wander. You can start thinking about things other than the job. I'm going to give you a bit of an example here. I haven't done the maths with these distances and times, so don't read too much into it. But if you can imagine two stations, we'll say station 1 and station 2. These stations are about 8 miles apart, and we'll say there's a 90 mph speed limit on this particular section of track. So the train leaves station number 1, the driver takes full power on the control lever, and the train starts to accelerate. Now about a minute and a half later, again I haven't done the maths, so don't call me out on that, the train reaches 85 miles an hour. The driver then shuts off the power and allows the train to coast. Now trains will coast for absolutely miles on their way, they're extremely energy efficient, steel on steel, causes its own problems in the lethal season, but that's certainly a good video for another time. So now the driver, having shut off at 85 miles an hour, has got about 4 minutes before he's got to put the brakes in for the next station. Knows the route well, has driven over it hundreds if not thousands of times before. You've now got, like I said, 4 minutes of doing absolutely nothing, looking out the window, responding to signals. We'll say in this situation all the signals are green. So you start looking out the window, you start looking around you a bit. Oh, you know, there's a cow in a field over there. Oh, that house looks nice. I wonder what I have for dinner tonight. Now every 60 seconds you've got the driver safety device sounds because you haven't touched the controls for more than a minute, so you get a beeping noise. You have to lift your foot off the pedal, push it back down, depending on the type of train you're driving. But you've driven trains for 15, 20 years, so this lifting of the foot and hearing the noise is habitual. It happens, it's an instant reaction, you do it without thinking about it. So you carry on driving along, you start thinking, oh, where should I go on my holidays this year? I wonder who's won the World Cup. Was it England? Perish the thought. Whoosh! Station 2's gone by. You forgot to put the brakes on because you've allowed your mind to wander. Putting the brakes on is the easy bit, but remembering to do it is the hard bit. So if you imagine that same sort of scenario, we're now going to sort of relive that scenario, but let's just say it's a cold winter's morning, we're feeling really tired, we've been up all night because England have won the World Cup and the neighbours have been having a party. You never know, it might happen. The train cab is warm, it's dark, the seat's comfortable, the motion of the train's rocking you from side to side. You can kind of see where I'm going. Like I said, the physical act of putting the brake in is easy, but being able to keep yourself engaged and keep yourself focused, especially when you're tired, when there's very little to do, is quite difficult. Many people won't understand this. Many people say, oh, how can you forget to put the brakes on? How can you forget to do this? How can you make this mistake when it's so simple? But the reality is when you've done something thousands of times, you become complacent with it. And this is perfectly normal human behaviour. Your mind starts to wander. If you're walking down the street, you might be thinking about something completely different to what you're doing, to where you're walking. It's just basic human behaviour. The difficult bit is knowing when to pull yourself back from that subconscious state, pulling yourself back from that daydream in order to do what you need to do, in order to react to what's going on around you. I'm sure many people who would drive a car know that feeling when you drive from A to B and you can't remember anything that happened during that journey, but you still arrived safely at your destination. You've just driven it completely on autopilot. And the same is true when you're driving a train. You just drive sometimes completely on autopilot. Difficulty is, of course, when you're driving a train is you haven't got to steer, you haven't got to check your mirrors, you haven't got a lot of that sort of physical interaction with the car that you've got with the train. So that losing concentration becomes even more of an issue. So we're going to take another example now with power operated sliding doors. It's down to the driver on trains on most companies to open the doors on the correct side. You could have a platform on the left, you could have a platform on the right, and it's down to the driver to open the doors on the correct side. One of the incidents we do get occasionally in the railway industry, and it's quite a severe incident, is drivers opening the doors on the non-platform side. Again, public perception. How hard can it be? Doors that side, doors that side, open them on the correct side. But it's an incident that can and does happen. I'll give you an example. Train stopping, 12 stations. Every station, the doors of the platform, the doors have been on the left. So the driver is now in a routine. Brakes, doors, brakes, doors, brakes, doors, brakes, doors, brakes, doors. Comes into station 13, the doors are on the right hand side. But the driver's now pre-conditioned. The driver's pre-conditioned to the doors being on the left. Comes into the station, brakes, doors. Oh dear. Should have opened the doors on that side. And it's just because you've been in that habit of opening the doors. So again, the physical act of opening the doors, simple, but being able to maintain the concentration and the focus needed to do it correct, that's where the challenge comes into it. So many drivers, myself included, do have techniques to avoid being caught up in these incidents. We do have skills that the company teach us and techniques that we adopt as individuals. Like I said earlier, the railway industry as a whole has invested massively in these non-technical skills, in this concentration and decision-making stuff, which for me as a train driver, I found fantastic and really useful. Some of the techniques we use is say what you see, something called commentary driving. So if you go past a yellow signal, you say in your head, signal yellow, you don't say in your head, sorry, you say out loud, last signal yellow, next signal red. If you're coming into a station and the doors are on the right hand side, as you approach the station, stopping at such and such a station, 8 carriages, doors on the right. And by doing that, you're saying things out loud, you're showing the concentration level. But again, that requires self-discipline to enforce it. You're the only one in that cab. You're the only one that can be disciplined enough to enforce those skills. Another example I'm going to give you now is a train. We call it an express train. We say it's a Virgin Pendolino running up the West Coast main line, booked to run fast from station 1 to station 3. Train driver's been driving this train all week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it runs fast, say from King's Cross on the West Coast, say from Euston, next stop Milton Keynes. However, on the Friday, the train is booked to stop at Watford Junction for some completely strange reason, nobody knows why. Now, having driven this route all week, the driver's conditioned to run fast from Euston to Milton Keynes. However, he's checked his schedule cards, perfectly fine, accepted that he's stopping at Watford Junction, knows he's stopping at Watford Junction. So he's acknowledged that fact, that's not now a problem. So on approaching Watford Junction, he's about 5 miles out from Watford Junction, driver starts encountering yellow signal aspects. 2 yellows, 1 yellow, 2 yellows, 1 yellow, and runs for maybe 10 minutes really, really slowly, following a freight train, for example. Driver's very, very aware at this point that he's stopping at Watford Junction. But instead of focusing on where he's stopping now, he's now concentrating on the signals. Approaches Watford Junction on a red signal, slowing down for the red signal, and ping, signal comes off to green. Driver now opens up the accelerator, flies straight through Watford Junction station, because the concentration's been diverted from stopping at the station to responding to the signals. And on the past experience of not having stopped there all week, you can kind of see how the events cascade and lead to an incident happening. Again, it comes down to non-technical skills, to concentration, to focusing, to prioritising your tasks, all the things that the public don't see, all the things that are going on inside your head. There are also many lifestyle factors that can make driving a train quite a difficult job. Fatigue is one of them. It's a really, really big problem in the railway industry. Driving a train itself is very, very mentally tiring, which leads to fatigue. And obviously most train drivers in most companies are shift workers, and it's well known that shift work causes fatigue in itself. So being fatigued, obviously the risk of falling asleep, the risk of losing concentration does increase. Now, I think I've probably made it sound a bit like the railway's a complete and utter death trap now, but I just want to go on to say that due to the professionalism of the people I work with, my colleagues, other drivers, signalmen and other people that work on the railway, and all the safety systems in place, the railway is actually one of the safest methods of transport in the world. So to sum up, I would say that the physical act of driving a train, operating the controls, responding to the signals, is really simple, but the role of being a train driver has a unique set of challenges that you can only really understand when you've been doing the job for a while, like I have. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of an insight into train driving and how it can be a bit more challenging than initially meets the eye. I must admit, I've actually found it quite difficult to kind of to get my point across in this video. So hopefully you kind of see where I'm coming from. I mean, although it looks as easy as red, green, stop, go, it really isn't. I mean, the technical skills and the abilities you need, the concentration levels are what makes the job difficult, in my opinion. Like I say, I've had real trouble sort of getting my point across, so hopefully you have grasped what I was getting at. But if you do have any comments or questions on this, then do feel free to post them in the comments section below, or you can contact me on my social media channels, which are down the bottom of the screen somewhere there now. And those of you who comment and question regularly will know that I do always try and respond. So in my last video, I asked you to identify what this sign right here means there. Some good answers on this, quite a few correct answers actually. This is actually a CSR, that's Cab Secure Radio Area Change Board. And what that tells the driver of the train is that he's now entering a new radio area. There's also a version of this sign for the NRN, that's National Radio Network. However, with the widespread introduction, as a couple of people pointed out, of GSMR, it's the new radio systems that we have on trains, these boards, although they're still out there, they're pretty much obsolete now. They don't mean anything to us as drivers, because nearly all trains, if not all trains in the UK, are now fitted with the GSMR radio. So, moving forwards, can you tell me what this sign right here means? Answers in the comment section below, and as always, I will reveal the answer in my next video, which will be on shift work and lifestyle. So it kind of ties in quite nicely with this one. Anyway guys, as always, thank you very, very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, do please hit that like button and subscribe. Like I said in my last video, I get about 20p a week from YouTube, so all the subscribers, all the love you give me is really appreciated. Absolutely brilliant. It sort of gives me an incentive to carry on what I'm doing. And if you haven't already, do check out my videos out in Portugal. So yeah, thank you for watching guys. Any comments, questions, social media channels, or leave them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and remember, create, share and inspire.